the first page, when you're allowed to look at them, candidates should not turn over their exam papers yet. The first page starts off with gaining entree, getting into it. Okay? And what I'm going to do is give you a very simple first question. And the first question is the first magic question. It's on that first page, but that you aren't allowed to look at yet. The first question is, and what do you want to have happen? And what do you want to have happen? And it's important immediately that you start talking this new language we're talking about. You know, if I say, Andy, what would you like, mate? You say, well, let's have a cup of coffee, shall we? So in other words, if I ask an ordinary question in an ordinary way, I'm going to get an ordinary response. Okay? And when one starts asking these questions in the right way, they are trans-inductive of themselves. These are totally naturalistic questions which force a person to go inwards into their own information, and that takes them into a state of inner trance, as long as they're going to the right place, in order to answer those questions. And the way in which you ask the question is going to direct whether they go to the right place to answer the question or not. What should we do, Andy? What shall we do, Andy? Eye contact is going to get a response between him and me about the we of what we shall do. And what would you, that's likely to be going to an adult you, what would you like to have happen? And if I ask that, breaking eye contact, modeling, this is not between me and you, the answer, it has nothing to do with me, what would you like to have happen? Hopefully you'll get a therapeutic want. Hopefully you'll get a therapeutic want. Response. Yeah. I remember years ago having a young West Indian guy who had been brought over from Jamaica by his family, and they were in despair because they'd all come over yonks ago, like, sort of 16 years ago, and he had been left there because he was so small with grandparents, and he had grown up in St. Anna in a totally Jamaican sort of way, and he was driving them nuts over here because they'd get him a job, and he'd sort of turn up late, maybe for half an hour or so, and then he'd go off and have a smoke of ganja, and the whole family brought him along to see me, and they all had their different solutions. The sister said, what he needs is to find Jesus. He needs to find Jesus. If he finds Jesus, he will be all right. And the father said, he just needs to work. He's lazy. And so, and in the end I said, right, Ezekiel, let's go and have a talk about this. And we went off and I sat down and I said, Ezekiel, what would you like to have happen? And he said, oh, let's have some music, man. Which I thought was a wonderful response. And I concluded that this was a perfectly adapted person with nothing wrong with him at all, except that he was adapted to living in Santa Ana in Jamaica and not to living in Hyson Green in Nottingham. Anyway, that's a bit by the by. So this is the first question. What would you like to have happen?